Welcome, everybody, to 2021 and Health and Happiness 2021 Unanswered Questions. Last week, we celebrated the passing year and the coming of the new year. This week, we are going to focus on answering all of your unanswered questions from last week and the previous weeks. But before we start that, I'm going to ask Dr. Shashank Joshi to share the happy news or the good news with all of us. And then I'll have Dr. Shetty share happy news from his end. So please go ahead, Dr. Joshi. We'll roll in the intro for the breaking news and then you can go ahead.
Happy New Year, everybody. It is 2021 at last, and we just at 11 o'clock today morning had the first good news of the year. The COVID vaccine has been rolled out. We have Atmanirbhar Bharat, two Indian companies, Serum Institute, which has made a biosimilar with transfer of technology from Oxford and AstraZeneca, has rolled out Covishield with emergency use. They already have 5 crore doses ready. I congratulate them for launching this initiative. Their phase 2, phase 3 clinical trial will continue. The second Make in India, Made in India company, with the collaboration of the National Institute of Virology and ICMR, the Bharat Biotech also has unveiled the approval by the Drug Control General of India, the Covaxin, which also will now be available for restricted emergency use for population at large. And the Drug Control General of India today morning at 11 o'clock, just an hour back, also has given phase 3 clinical trial permission for the first DNA indigenously made vaccine for Zy-COVID-D, Zydus Cadila. I congratulate the Atmanirbhar Bharat mission of our Honorable Prime Minister and all the scientists from India who have tirelessly made this happen. We know we are the vaccine capital of the world. We know every second vaccine on planet Earth is made in India. And now with the vaccination on board, we will see a break in the transmission of the chain of the pandemic. We will be able to save lives. And this is the largest vaccination program on planet Earth, which will now be unveiled starting anywhere between 7th to 14th of January. And this is the biggest breaking news of us, which will give us smiles and give us protection. So, Jai Hind.
Well, the breaking news of the vaccine is an anti-anxiety drug, and it provides relief and happiness from all the anxieties one has across the country. Many of us have not gone to visit families, relatives, have not had the normal joys which they would enjoy in 2019. So, vaccine is a tangible shift. It's a paradigm shift. And the most proudest moment for all of us, and it's pride of India, is that we are not waiting and looking eastward or westward. Not that we do not want excellence in science and we would embrace science from every country, every planet, and every continent, but it is a joy for every Indian and it improves mental health that we have at least two vaccines made in India and is going to be rolled very soon. The test drive or the dry run is on. So, vaccine is an anxiolytic. Vaccine is a happy moment. In spite of all the regressive messages we have heard yesterday, every innovation or a discovery will have regressive messages. People in the world also believe that Neil Armstrong never landed on the moon. Many people still believe that the earth is flat, but that's fine. That's fine. Science will destroy all the myths. The pace of science will shorten the duration of myths associated with vaccine. Hip hip hooray! India moves ahead. Atmanirbhar Bharat is there to stay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joshi and Dr. Shetty, for putting a smile on our faces in the very beginning of 2021. We are going to take a cue from the last week's session about health and happiness, which is what we are going to talk about. So, first thing I'm going to ask Dr. Shetty is to continue taking the cue from over there and tell us about this thing about, there was one question that came from Ms. Sush Pawar, which is, what is a mood swing? Is it a reality within us, or is it an imagination, or is it based on external factors? And do mood swings actually interfere with happiness? and how do we
Well,
overcome it?
yeah. I would use three phases: mood change,
Yeah.
mood movement, and a mood spike.
Right.
So let's look at mood change, and that is normal. Nobody can be happy 24 by 7, even if when you take cannabis or cocaine. So mood change is normal. You might shift from joy to sadness, sadness to fear, fear to envy, envy to
Right.
anger, and anger to love, or you might experience more than one emotion together. So mood movement, mood change, a mood shift is something. Mood change is something very important. Then there's mood movement.
Hmm.
Sometimes some people have this mood movement. They go up and down on the day, and they might
Hmm.
feel sudden spate of sadness or sudden joy, but they still are not ill. They're perfectly all
Right.
right. So a minor swing is perfectly normal as far as there is balance within and balance with the people around, and you're able to live life reasonably well. But a very major mood swing can happen because of illness, and
Hmm.
that might really get the person to conflict with the world around or with conflict with oneself. If the mood swing is very severely about sadness, what we will see actually is that you might see signs of depression. And the mood swing is about excitation, wanting to do 10 things at a time. You might successfully do a lot of work and you
Hmm.
would be termed as hypomania. But if you are disruptive, aggressive, violent, sexually promiscuous, and you might spend a lot of money, gift a lot of good things to everybody else, then that mood swing is not healthy at all. That mood
Hmm.
swing is known as mania. Then you need to really go back to somebody, to a psychiatrist, which means, which means when you are excessively quiet or irritable, or you're
Hmm.
excessively splurging, violent, excited, and feel that you're Lord Shiva or you're the Prime Minister of the country, these are the indications for you to seek immediately help, because you need a voltage stabilizer to bring your
Hmm.
mood back, not to complete normal, but for movement which is normal in life. Thank you,
Ex-
Sush Pawar, for the
Excellent.
question.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The other part of the discussion now brings me to Dr. Joshi, which is regarding the health. Now, everybody, this is 2021, it's still the third. Everybody posted all the photos regarding exercise. Everybody wants to have their New Year resolution with starting a very healthy 2021. And we congratulate everybody who's made a resolution to a healthy and happy life in this 2021. But uh, as much as we want to do this, it's very difficult to turn our life into the beautiful nuggets you gave us last week, Dr. Joshi, which is to convert into a healthy, leading to a healthy lifestyle. So, what are your thoughts on that? On how can we start this year trying to be healthy?
So remember, it is very easy to give talks and not practice what you preach.
Right.
And I think that comes from a simple fact of denial. So I think we should never be in denial or in an avoidant mode. I think we need to learn to face life and embrace change. So if we are resistant to change or we are conflict avoidant, then we will just stay where we are. So I think if you are committed for a change, then we will change. If you are committed to stay where we are, whatever you may do, you can't make a horse drink water if the horse does not want to drink water. So I would be very, very clear that it is what you do it for yourself. Don't do it for Guru Anna, Anirudh Sapatnekar, Dr. Shashank Joshi. Do it for yourself. Remember, you are cheating your own self. Good health is a virtue. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be happy first. If happiness will lead to good health, happiness and health go together. So I think you need to be cheerful. You need to have a positive mindset. You don't have to be a doubting Thomas, and you have to look at it with a lot of positivity, vibrance, and cheerfulness. Now, if that is infectious, like smile is, and I can see the smirk of Dr. Shetty, which is very, very infectious, and I can see the magnanimous smile of Anirudh, which is so magnificent. So, as I said, that we need to get and embrace change. and change is very difficult. So human beings are resistant to change, and therefore this is a year of change. See, the
Hmm.
calendar has changed. We
Yeah.
have to change. Our mindset has to change. It is not a routine. It is not something which we do every day. So a
Hmm.
change for good health is for good life, so that we can
Correct.
relish it. See, remember, happiness has to be felt. There are two types
True.
of Atman. We live in a universe. We have people who have Atrupta Atma and Trupta Atma. And
Hmm.
we should always be happy. We should be truth. We should be looking at all the positive things in so much of negativity around us. For
Correct.
example, I was just before this on a debate on vaccines. There are two ways to look at it. I see it as a wonderful change. We have
Yeah.
something to protect us. Something is better than nothing. We didn't have anything 9 months back. And now we have a vaccine to protect us, a vaccine to break the chain, a vaccine to save lives. But there are these doubting Thomas. But 60% की efficacy है, 70% की efficacy है, इसका side effect होएगा, इसका ये होएगा, उसका वो होएगा. Now, if you will keep on doubting, you should doubt.
Yeah.
Inquiry is the essence of inquiry is essential for scientific progress.
Correct.
It is essential for research, but it is
Yeah.
not essential for day-to-day life.
Hmm.
So in this cluttered world of information overload, keep
Yeah.
it simple, keep it
Hmm.
happy, and be cheerful and positive. That's my only message. So to make a change, Anirudh, to cut a
Hmm.
long story short, I
Yeah.
think we need a internal voice and a commitment. And I think if
Correct.
that is there, nothing is
Hmm.
impossible. But if we have designed our body not to change, if we have designed our body to be
Correct.
unhappy, if we
Hmm.
have designed our body that this is just a formality of changing of a year, instead of 2020, we are just going to add a one there, then God bless you. We are okay with that. Okay, my message is that I want to see you happy, I want to see you healthy. That's a wish. But the wish can be made reality by your inner participation, by awakening your own Kundli, your own Atman,
Hmm.
so that you are
Hmm.
a true person, and that is what we want to spread. Anirudh.
Excellent, excellent. What a wonderful answer to that. Dr. Shetty, the next question is actually there are two questions. One is from Seema Lopez. She asks how to train our mind to overcome sadness and bad mood. So, this I think is, I'll
Well,
ask first
well,
and then
well.
I'll
I
ask.
Yeah, yeah. I think what Dr. Shashank said is Truptatma would mean reasonable contentment, no complete contentment, and that is very important. And Atruptatma, which he also said, is somebody who's bickering all the time, and that bickering can be
Hmm.
stopped. We'll come to that later. Uh, Seemaji, as
Hmm.
we said last time, being unhappy, one needs to accept. Sadness,
Hmm.
one needs to accept. When we accept sadness, we move, we are able to love, we are able to experience joy.
Correct.
But if the sadness is severe,
Hmm.
then ask three questions. Am I lonely? Have I disconnected myself from the world? Am I not doing things which can make me happy? So there are a million things which you can do, small things which you can do to make yourself happy.
Hmm.
I saw a mandala painting a day yesterday. I don't know much about mandala painting, but I know what it is. And
Hmm.
somebody just kept painting that mandala painting, and I'll show a picture of this at the end of the show, and felt
Hmm.
nice. There was another who took a caged parrot, I don't know if it's legal, and
Hmm. Hmm.
started talking to the caged parrot. Caged parrot started talking back to this gentleman, and he felt nice. I saw
Hmm.
somebody who talks to the moon, even when the moon is not existent on not on a full moon day, on a no moon
Hmm.
day, and feels nice. Somebody sometimes counts the stars in the sky as and when they can.
Right.
Somebody would sit down and just pick a book. Somebody would pick just a few photographs of childhood and recall all the positive stories which happened. So pick up any such event, any such incident, and you'll find there are a million small things which we can do which we do not realize because anger and sadness is like a chadar on our mind, is like a cover or a hood on our mind, which blocks all these creative urges to really surface. Other day, I saw somebody talking to a single plant, one tulsi plant inside the house. And when you talk to an empty chair or a tulsi plant, you actually talk your heart out so that the pus in the heart moves out and the energy from the heart comes out. In spite of doing all this, if you feel that there is sadness which pervades, That means check your hormones, check your micronutrients, check your vitamins, check your blood pressure, check your sugar, check whether you're doing exercise,
Mm.
check whether you're doing pranayam, and check whether you're taking excessive protein feeds. And Harvard
Mm.
News has come with a important article which says protein feeds are bad, protein powders are bad. Watch,
Right.
see that on my Facebook page. So a million things.
Mm.
But if there is a hood on your mind of sadness and anger,
Mm.
try to break through this with all this. And if it fails, if all this fails, remember Amitabh Bachchan in the polio ad, Do Boon Khushi Ki. And remember me in no ad, Ek Goli Khushi Ki. Sometimes you need a small pill to remove the hood, remove the chadar or the blanket on your mind so that creative urges surface and you can practice it, you can embrace it. There are a million such small things, and I'm going to write a blog on it within 2 days and will send it across to each one of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shetty. I have to read a couple of comments that are really funny because I just found them. We were talking about this. Pradeep Sarvaiya ji says Dr. Shetty's laugh is like laughing Buddha, lucky charm of everyone in medical and non-medical field. And there is one that is just now come. Dr. Shashank Joshi looks like Supremo Balasaheb. Dr. Harish Shetty's smile is infectious. This program is like satsang, which I look forward to every week. So, thank you so much, Amita ji and Pradeep ji. The next question I'm going to ask is for Dr. Joshi. I'm actually going to ask a little bit of again COVID related questions that keep propping up. So, one question that has come is, sir, other vaccines like Pfizer, COVID have finished trial. They published their data before starting. This is not so with co-vaccine, or is it so, which is still not completed? So, what is the reality behind this?
So Pfizer has completed phase 3 clinical trials. Oxford vaccine completed their phase 3 clinical trials in US, Europe, that is
Mhm.
Brazil, South Africa, and United Kingdom. They
Correct.
are continuing their phase 2, phase 3 clinical trial in India. So they have not completed their phase 3 clinical trial in India. Neither has Covaxin, but Covaxin has recruited at least 20,000 people for the phase 3 clinical trial. And the
Okay.
subject expert committee of the Drug Control Journal of India evaluated the interim results of the phase 3 clinical trial as well as the Indian data of Oxford, which
Mhm.
is only with 1600 patients. And they looked at both and gave them a restricted emergency use approval in a clinical
Okay.
trial. So remember that these are all very limited approvals with a strong vaccine vigilance program in place. And I'm certain that in the next couple of months, the phase 3 clinical trials for the Bharat Biotech vaccine also will be completed. Zydus Cadila will also be completed. At the same time, uh, the Serum Institute also is mandated to complete their trial program for India. So I think the subject expert committee looked at safety, looked at
Right.
efficacy, and then made and gave a limited approval. See, we are in pandemic times, we are in emergency times. So in
Mm.
emergency times, as I said, it is about saving lives. It is
Mm.
about decreasing the infectiousness in the population and breaking the change of population. So obviously,
Yep.
we have to go a step at a time, and I think
Right.
that is a step towards positivity. As I said, that we will get that data. The drug controller's approval is extremely cautious, it is
Mm.
extremely vigilant, and not only that, this whole vaccine platform is built on a application, a
Correct.
digital platform. We know that we are now in the national digital health mission, and the
Yes.
government of India in Atmanirbhar Bharat program has launched a e-Sanjeevani app, and that
Yeah.
e-Sanjeevani app has a co-win platform. So
Correct.
every person who will be vaccinated will be on the app,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the second booster dose will be generated on that. In
Correct.
fact, I am certain that the way Digital India mission is progressing, we will probably have a biometric mapping. And all you need
Mm.
to do is get your accreditation done
Mm.
either through a Aadhaar card or a
Yeah.
electoral roll. So I think the
Right.
step one is the 1 crore for the healthcare workers, followed by
Mm.
step two, which are the 2 crore, which are COVID frontline warriors, followed by the 27 crore Indians who are above 50 years of age or below 50 years of age who have comorbidities. So I think I'm very certain and reasonably certain beyond reasonable doubt that the
Mm.
safety has been evaluated by the best experts in the country, and only
Hmm.
when they were satisfied of that, they have given a emergency restricted use approval. So
Hmm.
it is
Hmm. Hmm.
not something which will get off the shelf. It will be given on complete supervision under continuous vigilance, and it
Okay.
is voluntary. So
Hmm.
remember, the caveat is very clear that it is voluntary, it is under supervision, and at least the Covaxin is still going to be in a clinical trial mode or a research mode.
Excellent. Thank you so much for clarifying all of that for us. We'd just like to congratulate Vaishali Latia. I've entered the new year with acceptance, joy, resilience rather than resolution, guilt, and stress. Congratulations for doing that. Dr. Shetty, the next question is for you, which was asked last week. My son has had a breakup and he cannot cope up. What to do?
Breakups are difficult during COVID because it's a double whammy. There's
Yeah.
one breakup because of the virus, fear of the
Hmm.
virus, and then somebody who you long to be with during tough times leaves you for whatever reason. But remember,
Hmm.
there are five important points which are very important. And I picked this from Psychology Today, that's the source, as
Hmm.
Anirudh puts that slide on. And first is acknowledge, before I read these tips, acknowledge the breakup, accept the breakup. But first is focus on your growth. Replace the question, why did I choose that relationship, with what did I learn about myself? Remember that someone can be bad for you without being bad. Embracing a former partner's full and flawed humanity, human values, helps you to remember your own. A relationship can be both valuable and impermanent. A relationship can be something you miss and something you do not want it back. So, uh, Psychology Today, wonderful group, says that you can be scared and courageous as you begin, which means, but before you do all this, be aware of your feelings, cry as much as you can, because he or she is not the only person for solace. You close your eyes to everybody else when you're in love. Open your eyes, there are others who are there, your friends, your family, who would be a buffer. Allow the emotions to spill, and all those who are around, don't make fun, don't criticize, don't say, I told you so. Don't give long lectures of look ahead and your career is ahead. Just be. And as the emotions yield and find a rivulet, thoughts come up, and there'll be a bunch of thoughts. Reinforce and encourage thoughts like, I can't give up like this in my life. I can't lose my studies. I have a family who also loves me. I have friends who have stood by me for ages. I've been so good in the last so many years. Probably this is an accident. And when these thoughts come, reinforce these thoughts and follow this seven sentences which I've just put. It might evaporate. You need to read it again and again. And if you miss reading this, go to my Facebook page. It is there. And Anirudh will put that link very soon on the site. So a breakup is normal. Before the age of 23, there can be two or three breakups according to our research. And breakup teaches you more about how to relate, how to live, how to love, and how to be together. And that I think is very, very important. But
Wonderful.
if you're very sad, very down, very depressed, mind is like a stone, then you need a blacksmith with a chisel to help your mind. Then you need a carpenter to shift your thinking. Then you need a tree who will actually help you to reflect. Then you need a mirror or somebody with whom you can reflect, rephrase, review, and go through the process. And you need a mental health garage where your mind can be repaired.
Joshi, the next question is for you. Let me just see this. This is a question related to antiviral drugs. So this is regarding, I think, the route. So it says, can antiviral drugs in the form of nasal route help in COVID?
So COVID's port of entry is the nose and the
Correct.
throat. So a lot of nasal drugs, including
Mm.
remdesivir nasally, are being developed. So
Okay.
nasal route has been explored in the COVID world and in respiratory viruses. Okay, they
Okay.
have not been very successful because the nasal route is not an easy route to handle. So
Hmm.
nasal
Hmm.
route and inhaled route for various drugs have been explored, including nebulization, and
Hmm.
the bioavailability at the local space is higher.
Okay.
Similarly, a nasal COVID vaccine is also being developed at Bharat Biotech. So
Okay.
remember that nasal route is an attractive route in research mode, and
Hmm.
both
Hmm.
nasal and inhaled remdesivir is being developed. But as we know that there is a role for these novel drug delivery systems, but they
Hmm.
are all in research mode. And particularly, see, there is nose COVID, there is throat COVID, and there is lung COVID. So
Correct.
in the nose COVID, if you
Hmm.
have a direct delivery at the nose, it
Hmm.
definitely will be much more useful. But
Right.
if you look at our traditional yogic practices,
Hmm.
and if you do Jalaneti and clean up the nostril, that is a
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
efficient way of actually decontaminating the nose. If you do a
Hmm.
good throat gargle with a
Hmm.
povidone iodine gargle, it will actually ensure that your throat is clean and is decontaminated of the virus. So it's
Okay.
important to understand that simpler measures like gargling, simple measures like Jalaneti, which are there traditionally or conventionally, or they are called as typical grandma's remedies, are equally efficient in the
Hmm.
localized COVID, which is a nose COVID or a throat COVID.
Okay. And one more question. Actually, can you clarify whether the virus can enter through ear canal resulting in COVID? As such, we don't cover our ears and we are only wearing a mask on the nose and mouth.
So there is no oral entry or ear entry. Okay, it
Okay.
can enter through the eyes, it can
Hmm.
enter through the nose, it can enter through the throat. So it
Hmm.
definitely can enter through these. And therefore, if you are into a COVID environment, we
Hmm.
recommend even zero number spectacle, and we recommend a mask covering the nose right
Hmm.
up to here. But ear is open because remember the external ear has then a crooked middle ear, and then
Hmm.
there is a eardrum which protects it, and
Okay.
then there is a wax which protects it. And
Hmm.
remember that waxed ear should never be removed. The wax is a natural mechanism with antimicrobial agents which
Hmm.
protects us naturally from any influence of bacteria or viruses.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Dr. Shetty, there are two questions. One is Mr. Chalu says, my son has anxiety issues due to he moving away from us, continuous uncertainty on the country locking down where he is going to study. How should he balance himself? Experiences palpitations due to this anxiety. All medical reports are normal.
A lot of Indians hate to lose 6 months and hate to lose 1 year. That is a real malady within them. A lot of Americans leave everything after the age of 18, travel for 1 year, and start their education all over again. Though they are not financially though it's not financially easy to take higher
Right.
education. So the concept of I lose a year,
Hmm.
एक्झाम केलंच पाहिजे. 1 वर्ष केलं तर काय होणार? फुकट जाणार. That is one thing we'll have to overcome, and that is and it's easy for me to say he should overcome, but
Yeah.
let him reflect and say that when a bomb has hit my building and I've been I've been asked to stay somewhere else, I can't help the building to be repaired overnight. I'm staying in a temporary shelter, but I'll make the best of it. So
Hmm.
if he really discusses this anxiety with you as he goes up and down, the thought of probably going to a new city, a new country, a new place, new friends, and a new college, the
Hmm.
anxiety tied to that thought will get released. That's one way.
Okay.
Number two is constant reassurance by saying that ultimately you don't have to protect your ears, you have to
Hmm.
protect your dream. Protecting your year is doing something so that you have done something valuable in this year. It's
Right.
like wasting your food when you actually don't have to eat it because you're full and there's food on the dinner table and you eat it because you have to have dinner. No, you may not have your dinner if you're full. So protect your dream and not
Mm,
your year, which is lost or gained. And that is number two. Number three is let him talk to all other children who
mm,
are facing the same predicament because when
mm.
he would share with others, the anxiety is divided and a lot of anxiety is lost among the group. And when he shares with others, you'll also learn how others cope with the same anxiety. Being
Correct.
connected in a restricted environment increases anxiety. Being connected in a broader environment actually improves anxiety. Also, he may be having irrational thoughts about the
Mm,
future. No jobs, no new laptop because probably there's no money in the family, etc., etc. But my dear friend, in the film Guru, the protagonist says that you can snatch my years, you can snatch my gold, you can snatch my wealth, you can snatch everything, but mere himmat tum chhin nahi sakte. So protect his courage, his fortitude, his resilience, and his himmat, so that wherever he goes, he stands up. But I would not like to be very, very utopian. If he still has anxiety in spite of all this, then I said that sometimes एक psychologist खुशी की या एक गोली खुशी की. So let us be pragmatic, but remember
yeah.
the core message is protect your dream.
Mm,
Don't protect your years, which might get lost, or 6 months, which might get lost, or a new environment. And remember, the only way to break uncertainties after every disaster, the revival is very fast. After the World War, Germany rose to be a superpower. Japan rose to be a superpower. And
mm.
India is slowly coming up in a similar way. So after a crisis, you jump much ahead in life as a community, as a nation, as a country, and as different countries.
Excellent. Thank you so much. One more question for you was from Chaya Devi Mane, which was sort of related. My son was very studious but has lost all interest in studies. Uh, we have lost happiness in family since 2 years. Exaggerated in last 1 year, hitting has become common.
So, Chaya Devi, you have really given us a clue, and that clue is the reasons for losing happiness in the last 2 years could be many, could be different, and I wouldn't know, and I wouldn't want to ask you either. But let's address that.
Hmm.
If if it is separation, let's address the grief.
Yeah.
If it is loss, let's address the shame. If it is violence, let's address the trauma. If it is
Hmm.
nothing due to nothing, yet let's address it. And
Hmm.
as you address the reasons for loss of happiness 2 years ago, before the COVID, then the burden on your son will be much lighter. But a lot of children have lost interest in studies. Nothing wrong in that. Nothing wrong in that at all. But if they're on a crucial juncture of a entrance exam or a 12th standard, etc., etc.,
Hmm.
help him meet his teacher whom he loves. That might rekindle his interest of studying himself. Sometimes they don't like online studies.
Hmm.
Help him find out if staying inside the house has made him very slow because lack of movement can decrease mood and make you disinterested in studies. Lack of stimulative chat with friends can decrease your interest in studies.
Right.
Low marks in one of the exams as compared to what he got much before the COVID can break your interest. Loss of interest in a subject can actually do that. Loss of dietary substances which are necessary for
Hmm.
any child to learn can also bring down interest. And at the end, what is very important is the child has locked himself in his mind and he's feeling lonely in spite of everybody around. And if the environment is not joyous and not smiling and not laughing, and everybody, and it's like a home locked in silence. Let's
Hmm.
treat the home, not the child. And when we treat the home, maybe the child will actually come out of his locked of his
Hmm.
solitude. Lastly, my dear friends, a lot of children have lost interest in studies, and it's not very abnormal. You can kindle it again, and if you fail to kindle it for some time, and even if you
Hmm.
have a lost year, nothing to worry. Next year can be better year. But
Yeah.
remember, दो बूंद जिंदगी की, what Amitabh said, एक साइकोलॉजिस्ट काम की या एक साइकियाट्रिस्ट उपयोग की, and that I think is very very important.
Lovely. Uh, so the next questions are for Dr. Joshi. Before that, we'll just Kusum Rupani ji says one can learn yoga for free from Yoga Shri Ambika Kutir. It has various branches all over India. Thank you so much, Kusum Rupani ji, for informing our viewers about this. Dr. Joshi, the next question is from two questions. One is from Dr. Banushali. He asked, can COVID be contributing GI symptoms? What are these complaints and post-COVID effects on GI and pancreas? Is there an effect also on type 2 DM?
So, Dr. Bhanushali, that's a very good question. So, there is a lung COVID which is coming through the nasal route and oral route, but there is
Hmm.
also a gut COVID. So, the second COVID is a gut COVID, and that is through diarrhea and toilets. In fact, a lot of infections which have spread in China, India, and across the world have actually spread through the GI route. And diarrhea has been one of those unusual symptoms of COVID. So we should never dismiss diarrhea in COVID.
Hmm.
And usually these are the spreaders and super spreaders. So loose motions can also be a symptom of COVID. But the commonest cause of loose motions at this point of time usually is eating out. So do not
Right.
confuse that with COVID, but it could be a COVID symptom also in unusual circumstances if the loose motion is not getting resolved. And
Hmm.
therefore, as we have hygiene
Hmm.
for the etiquette, for the oral cavity, for the cough etiquette, similarly, we
Hmm.
also need to have a toilet etiquette,
Right.
particularly where there are shared toilets or common toilets even at home, particularly
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
those people at home who are going out all the time. So it's
Hmm.
important to maintain a toilet hygiene as much
Hmm.
as we are maintaining the mask hygiene. That's the first thing. Second thing is pancreas involved? Yes, pancreas can be rarely involved. There is a
Hmm.
clear entity called COVID diabetes. And what is
Correct.
happening now is any virus can
Hmm.
cause viral pancreatitis. So any virus,
Right.
it could be a flu virus, mumps virus, measles virus. Similarly, COVID virus also causes inflammation or swelling of the
Hmm.
pancreas. And then that pancreas has two types of functions. One is a function which makes pancreatic juice, which allows us to digest food easily. And second is the hormonal function, which makes insulin as a hormone, which regulates our body's cells. Now,
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
happens is that these beta cells are damaged and you get a post COVID diabetes. So, diabetes, somebody who doesn't have diabetes but is predisposed to get diabetes after COVID can get diabetes. Somebody who never had even a predilection to develop diabetes post COVID can get COVID induced pancreatic diabetes, where there is a sudden increase in sugars up to 400,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then they need insulin and they
Hmm.
will need that for a period of time. It is also called as a flat blood diabetes. It's rare. So
Hmm.
remember, COVID can affect the pancreas. And
Hmm.
after COVID, in the post-COVID tsunami, just
Hmm.
like Guru and I is seeing a post-traumatic stress disorder as a tsunami, we are
Hmm.
seeing post-COVID diabetes as a tsunami. And we
Right.
are seeing a clear-cut increase. And people who are diabetics, who got COVID, well controlled on oral tablets, one or two, are needing
Hmm.
more tablets. They are needing insulin. So there is a clear-cut entity called
Hmm.
COVID-related diabetes of different nature and types, and
Hmm.
needs an aggressive management. Usually after 6 months, it goes away. So
Hmm.
remember that COVID has three phases. Of course, there's a pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic phase which we never pick up. Then we
Right.
have a COVID, which is a symptomatic phase, or the first 10 days when the virus actively multiplies.
Yeah.
Usually after 14 days, it's gone. Then we have the so-called COVID recovery phase, which
Hmm.
can be small or big, which is a post-COVID syndrome. And
Hmm.
then we have the long haul syndrome, which is going to
Right.
last from 4 weeks to 12 weeks, sometimes even up to 6 months. So we are
Hmm.
seeing all these different types of COVID. And in that, diabetes is there everywhere. It can be there when you get COVID. It can be there during COVID. It can be there after COVID. It can be there in long haul. And it can come after 6 months also. So diabetes is omnipresent in COVID. And it's one of the important comorbidities which determines whether
Hmm.
you will be at risk to death or not. So diabetics who are in COVID world need
Hmm.
more care, more adherence to lifestyle and their medicines. And as
Hmm.
long as that glucose is under control, with
Hmm.
cheerfulness and positivity, with eating slowly, eating on time, eating the right food, doing a
Hmm.
good amount of physical exercise like Uttak Baitak, Surya Namaskar, meditation and pranayama, sleeping
Hmm.
from 10 to 7 or 10 to 5, at least for a good 7 to 8 hours, and
Hmm.
always being cheerful and positive, and sharing food with others by eating less and chewing well. So eat less, chew more, eat less, share more, eat less, eat right, eat less and avoid sweets, fried food, fast food, and dry fruits, and
Hmm.
ensure that you are mindful in your eating, do a lot of physical activity, sleep well, and stay away from not only COVID, but COVID like respiratory illnesses. A
Correct.
diabetic is as susceptible from a COVID, it is equally
Hmm.
susceptible to other respiratory flus,
Hmm.
pneumonia, it is equally susceptible to fungal infections and even diseases like tuberculosis. So
Hmm.
COVID is just one of those specs in diabetics world.
Excellent. The next question actually may be relevant to both. It's a little long question, so please allow me. This is from last week. Radhika Muleji asks, Dr. Joshi, there is more and more talk about all this organic life and organic living. However, it is very difficult to follow. Is there really a scientific basis behind all this? Also, how can a middle class person eat healthy or organic?
So, there are two good schools of thought.
Yeah.
One is this organic buzz which surrounds people, which is
Mm.
propagated by social media and a lot of buzzword which is there that we are organic. What is
Yeah.
organic? 100 years back and 150 years back, okay,
Mm.
when we used to take cow dung in our house and keep our house clean by cow dung, that is, I think, rustic and organic. Okay, so that is true organic. Now, what has happened is we are in a world of pesticides and insecticides.
Mm.
And because we are in a world of chemicals,
Mm.
chemicals have disrupted the environment. So these are called as environmentally disrupting chemicals. And that is
Correct.
why the produce which is made
Mm.
by the agrarians or the agriculturists, and these are not the agriculturists of last week, where we said you have to agree for whatever I say. These are the real agrarians, which is the farmers. These farmers, to increase their produce, use often pesticides, insecticides, which destroy the crops.
Mm.
These chemicals, when they go in the manure, they cause so-called modified foods. And obviously, the organic foods are the ones which are free from all these things. So obviously,
Mm.
they are more expensive. So
Yeah.
obviously, any organic food is better than a environmentally contaminated food produced.
Correct.
And therefore, it is very important that we should have a eco-friendly,
Mm.
green, environmental food. It's very,
Mm.
very crucial that what we consume is organic. Having
Mm.
said that, you can grow your own garden. We have shown that in the past that if you have ability to grow your own garden, to grow your own vegetables without pesticides, in your own little space, in your little building where you live, in your own little neighborhood where you can plant your own vegetables and eat your own vegetables. Plant your
Mm.
own fruit trees and eat your own fruits. That's the
Mm.
only way you can make economical organic produce, which you make it yourselves. The reason I'm telling you this is because
Mm.
farming is a very tough proposition. See
Yeah.
that I really empathize and sympathize with our farmers because what happens is that it is a zero-sum game for them. It is hugely dependent on the environment and the weather gods. And therefore, because weather is predictably unpredictable like the coronavirus, they actually get affected by it.
Right.
And therefore, their produce is not finite. And therefore, their
Mm.
returns are not finite. And then they land up into financial jeopardy.
Mm.
That is exactly what our prime minister is trying to do is the cut the middleman, give them some reasonable profit and ensure that farmers stay healthy and happy and they are able to produce. But for eating
Mm.
organic food, which is economical, best
Mm.
is to have your home garden at your own home, around your home, near your home and produce your own food where you can control the manure, which is pesticide free. You can
Mm.
control the produce and eat well. And also
Right.
remember, the quantity will be less because anyway we need to restrict our quantity. It will also make you do a lot of physical activity. So your exercise will be done. And I think
Mm.
it is a very good thing. So I think one of the 2021 messages is to have a home garden
Home
where you
garden.
can grow your own vegetables own fruits and 5 fruits and vegetables per day, if we do that, there won't be any of these non-communicable diseases. Like last year's theme was Panchamrut of Guru Anna. This year's theme is 5 fruits and vegetables to keep non-communicable diseases away.
That's wonderful, wonderful. I think we need to do a five fruits and vegetables challenge for all our, wonderful friends on 1MD here. I'm gonna ask the next question to Dr. Shetty. Joe Pasha says, "What do you do when a child does not want to travel, even for a small outing, because he or she needs to wear a mask?"
Uh, I think that's a very pragmatic and a practical question. Uh, Joe or Jyoti, a child has to be explained about the mask in a different way, not in the same way as an adult has to. At the same time, if in the minds of the parents it is there that child need not wear the mask, I'm just putting it because of the COVID protocol, and I put it with a lot of disappointment, discontent, and a face which is not straight and not smiling. So first,
Hmm.
the best way to tell the child is not when you're going out suddenly, but when the
Right.
child is in a lucid space, and the lucid space is the child sleeps with the mother horizontal and is just about to sleep. We tell all the great stories when the child is about to sleep because it goes deep into the unconscious. And at that lucid moment, child is open to ask questions and discuss. So ask him one question: why do you think everybody is wearing a mask? And he comes
Hmm.
with an answer, and he'll say, why don't you tell me why? And then you slowly tell him through examples of history, examples in cartoon serial, without exaggerating,
Hmm.
and that will really help you. You can use your own innovative skills to explain. Then you might ask you a million questions. Remember, the secret of children accepting views or accepting rules or accepting things which are beneficial for them is when you answer as many questions and when you say honestly that you don't know the answer of that question. And that is the
Hmm.
time when the child will accept that probably he needs to wear a mask. But if the child has been restless and being given exactly what he wants, people come and ask me, why is my child not having gratitude? Why is he an entitlement child? He believes that he it's his right to get everything around him. And I tell them that when you give, if you give in abundance without need, there is no gratitude. If you give in doses which is required, there is gratitude. If you give in doses and explain where the things come from, how difficult it is to earn money, what does the sun do to the plants what you eat, what does the moon do to the fruits what you eat, how does nature help plants and grains to grow, gratitude comes. That's a long process. Also, when the parents acknowledge small people around them with a thank you and with deep genuine gratitude, children learn. So it's so important that there's a holistic understanding in the child. It's not, children don't learn in a linear manner like mask, one way of learning, exams the second way. So if you have a holistic attitude of discussing with the child strategically, the child will definitely wear a mask for short distances. No shouting, no screaming, no getting frustrated. And if you get frustrated shouting and you shout and scream, explore yourself, whether you sleep well, whether you exercise, uh, whether you're angry with your husband or your wife, or whether you're angry with the world, whether you're angry with the government, and you're showing all that anger with somebody who cannot protect themselves, then there's a problem. So, lucid moment, explain, answer questions, congratulate him abundantly for doing what he did not do for so long, will change the entire situation.
Wonderful.
I saw a
Uh,
question by Duryodhan.
Duryodhan
Duryodhan.
Chavan, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
For
yeah.
respected Dr. Hari sir, what is exactly meant by obsession?
Well, in psychiatry, the word obsession has a different connotation. In life, in English literature, it may have a different connotation. Let's start with English
Hmm.
literature. You must have seen the movie Dar, where Shah Rukh Khan was obsessed with the lady, and that is being obsessed. Okay, you must have seen different situations in your life around you where people are obsessed with others, wanting to indoctrinate, inculcate, be in contact, be in touch, be dependent, crave I'm obsessed about mangoes. I eat 12. It's not necessary. But obsession in mental health terms has a different meaning, which means it's a repetitive thought or an image or a theme which comes to you in your mind against your wish, causes a lot of anxiety and guilt. I'll give you examples. I feel my table is not clean and I try to clean it repeatedly. Even after cleaning, the thought doesn't go. It's an irrational thought. I know the thought is wrong, but I can't help it. And I clean it again and again. So many people actually washing their hands and washing their homes again and again would be having that obsession. I am obsessed about this book, and I feel like actually reading it again and again. And I know that I've read. It's an irrational thought, but I can't help it. I'm obsessed about the fact that I feel that my door is not locked. I try to check the lock again and again. I know I've locked it. I know it's an irrational thought. I can't avoid it. And that's what obsession is. Everybody in on this earth has a couple of obsessions, and that's perfectly all right. I sometimes feel that I've not put off the AC in my clinic and I might go back occasionally. That's okay. But if it is really troubling you with your interaction with the world and it's associated with compulsive acts of cleaning and checking, etc., then it needs some form of treatment. Thank you, Dr. Duryodhan, for that beautiful question. You're mute, you're mute.
Anirudh, you are muted.
So sorry. Dr. Goel asks, do you think that large social gatherings will start after July?
So, Dr. Goel, I wish wishes could be horses and it could be true. We can't be astrologers. We are scientists. And in science, we have to go by the current numbers. So, the current numbers are showing the very good curve. And it appears that the first surge is almost over. So, if this consistent drop occurs and the tail is gone from the hotspot regions of India, and we see that by March, we don't have any COVID cases picked up across India. And if that persists, and we have a critical mass of herd immunity by then, which is
Right.
unlikely, but it is there by then, it is possible that larger social gatherings would be feasible. See, India has a population of around 130 plus crore population. We are looking at vaccinating in the first phase around 30 crore Indians. We are presuming that 1 crore Indians have already got COVID. And mathematical modeling has showed us that for every one exposed person, okay, maybe 50 or 100 could have been exposed to COVID.
Wow.
So
Okay.
if that logic and analogy has been used, okay, then it is likely that how many Indians would have had COVID? We don't know. So if you take, say, India has, based on the number of billion population which has been affected, say another 30 crores which have already been exposed.
Right.
35 crores already given, 65 crores. We vaccinate another 30 crores, 90 crores. Now the problem is, Dr. Goel, I wish I could have answered a question in a more scientific basis. But Professor Fauci said for herd immunity, you need 60% of the population to have antibodies.
Yeah.
This was when he said in July. By August, September, he said you need 70%. And
Yeah.
just day before yesterday, he said, for herd immunity, you need 80% and above. So you see, there has been a changing goalpost. Now, if
Yeah.
our goalpost for herd immunity keeps changing, then I don't know when we will really unlock. What probably will happen is a large population will be having a reasonable degree of immune status from the viral infection. So the next winter, I feel, would be a better winter with a larger population with herd immunity. And that would be like a test. That would be like a acid test to understand the implications of both the exposure, the immunity, and the vaccination program. So the success of the vaccination program, which will be sowed in now over the next 3 months each, from Jan to March, from April to June, and from July to September, that would truly be measured between October to December of 2021. So the last 3 months will tell us what was the impact of that, how did the disease behave. Now look at UK. UK actually the virus completely went away in summer. From the month of June, July, August, September, they had virtually no virus. But virus is smarter. What did it do? By mid-September, it started mutating, and we have a second surge there. and they have now their second surge. 80% of it is a mutant strain.
Yeah.
So just like that, we have flattening out our curve for the next
Hmm.
3 months. Would there be another surge coming up later? Can I predict that? Answer is no. Will it
Hmm.
happen? Unlikely, but cannot be ruled out. What do we need to do? Still keep doing masking. 2021, there is no going away from COVID appropriate behavior of appropriate masking, which is
Hmm.
consistent,
Hmm.
which is complete, and which is very, very clear cut 24/7 in a decluttered environment. What do I mean by decluttered environment? In a well ventilated room,
Yeah.
with a less crowded space or a non crowded space. And do not unmask. And the unmasking situations are eating, eating, and eating. So I would say do fasting, fasting, and fasting. And when you want to eat alone,
Yeah.
eat alone. Do not eat in a crowd.
Yeah.
Okay, and be very careful beyond the eating and unmasking times in
Hmm.
toilets or crowded clusters or poorly ventilated environments. Distancing is not just the only thing.
Hmm.
Somebody asked a question about fomites.
Yeah.
Well, fomites, we were paranoid about fomites probably in March.
Hmm.
Things have changed by the time it has come down. That doesn't mean that fomites don't transmit the virus, but the likelihood of transmission is much less. It is the aerosolized transmission which is at the peak at the pecking order,
Yeah.
followed by the transmission from probably the gut route. So those are the two primary routes from which transmission is occurring, and we have to break the chain of transmission. We have a singular commitment to break the chain of transmission,
Hmm.
break the back of the pandemic. And I think it's very, very doable. But as I said, some of our questions, Dr. Goel, as are not easy to answer. And I refuse to be an astrologer, though genetically, as I said, we are astrologers. I refuse to be an astrologer. From a science standpoint, it is plausible,
Yeah.
possible, but I would still say have caution.
Hmm.
Don't unmask till the end of the year, and probably unmask once the numbers are right consistently, maybe after, look at 3 months. The reason I'm saying 3 months is not because they are quarters. I'm saying it because the seasonal changes
Hmm.
closely follow viral patterns. With
Hmm.
each season and each change of season, the virus changes its behavior. We only hope that we can get better of the virus this year. Last year, probably the virus got better of us.
Hmm. So, since you mentioned about the UK scene, I'm going to ask you that one more question, which a lot of people have actually asked is how worried should we be about the UK strain? Is it true that children are more susceptible to it? Kindly clarify. Pratima Bhandarkar ji asks.
So, Pratima ji, you have asked absolutely a bullseye question.
Hmm.
UK strain has two bad things. It
Hmm.
is very susceptible to children. In fact, children and young adults are the core feature of the new UK strain.
Hmm.
It's a small little variation in mutant. So the B1.1.7 strain from United Kingdom, which is an antigenic drift, minor mutation on the spike protein, definitely has an impact on children and young adults, people who are young below 60 without comorbidities, and spreads fast, 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 and fast. Does
Hmm.
it cause a worser disease? We don't know, unlikely. But it clearly affects children. Do children do badly? Unlikely. They recover well, but then the likelihood of spreading and transmission goes up exponentially.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Joshi. The next question is for Dr. Shetty. Two questions actually. One is from Sangeeta Kohli ji. One second. Dr. Shetty, my concern as a teacher and for parents, students have got very cozy to the situation of online teaching and evaluation. It is going to be a war bringing back into discipline of attending schools. She's fearful. Please answer this. You're on mute, sir.
So you're muted.
Absolutely not. With all the kids have been interacting, they're dying to, large number of them are dying to come back to school. The shy ones feel very comfortable in this situation. And remember, even after our old May vacation, we were
Hmm.
very reluctant to go to school on that Monday. June 13th was the day when school started, and that's my birthday.
Hmm.
And but still, once we get into school, meeting all our friends whom we have not met for a long time is important. So coming back is not a problem. Now, disciplining will take some time. Okay,
Hmm.
as the horse is out of the stable and it has to run a race again, disciplining will take some time. But the key methods of disciplining would be
Hmm.
not punitive, not authoritarian, not enforcing rules, but asking them their experiences of the lockdown will get all their attention to the teacher, and sharing the teacher's experience of the lockdown would
Hmm.
really bring a transient in the class, and automatically children will start adhering to the norms of the school. That's number one. Number two, taking a feedback of all the teachers, how they taught, what did they feel, genuine, honest feedback. As a teacher enters the class, you must have seen me on the screen. How did you think I looked? Did you like my clothes? Did you like the way I taught? What is it that I could have improved? Genuine feedback from the children about your teaching will again bond the child with the teachers, bond the children with the teachers. And very few teachers have the courage to ask this question. Very
Hmm.
few teachers have this courage to ask question. I have faced a lot of opposition in the school which I run by the principle of not having this feedback, and that will bond the entire class with the teachers. And number three, slowly focus on learning, slowly focus on getting them back to their course, and I'm sure that will be the right approach, or the most appropriate approach for getting the children back both in their learning as well as in their behavior. Thank you, Sangita ji, for asking that question. And these are the things which will help bonding. Sharing stories is the key to enforce discipline, affection, and learning.
Absolutely. The next question was actually from Dr. Bhanushali as well, was related to depression as a little sensitive question. In your psychiatric anxiety patient, do you need to increase those medicine doses, and how to deal with depression in the era of COVID and post COVID?
Well, you also asked me whether I have treated people only with reassurance.
Yes.
No, 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 no. I would never do that. I,
All right.
I would allow the physician to do what he or she is good. But yes, I have treated a lot of patients with counseling and reassurance. And when counseling and reassurance is provided, we find that the oxygen levels also remain good, and
Hmm.
anxiety also drops. And when anxiety drops, a lot of physical symptoms also improve. A lot of my friends who have been counseling patients inside the hospital, online or live, have said that reassurance and standing in front of the patients with the pp kit and a very strong reassurance, which is genuine, pragmatic, and scientific, helps the patients to come back to normal. High anxiety, lack of sleep completely would need some amount of medications. A lot of sadness and intractable insomnia would need also some amount of medication. A catastrophic approach towards the future inside the ward also would need a lot of reassurance and medications. Don't be afraid to give medications to patients who are suffering from COVID, only in liaison with the physician, because sometimes the interaction could bring down the respiratory rate, and would also affect the respiratory center. So, a complete liaison between the psychiatrist, psychologist, and the doctor is extremely important. All those who have been lucky to talk to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I would say the recoveries would be much faster than those who are extremely anxious and worried and scared. Well, I think there's a question on the chat box.
Yeah.
I think my dad is depressed, but he's
Yes.
not crying. How
Yep.
do we help them? So, if you show the slide, I would like to share a very important insight that a person who's crying may not always be depressed. He or she may be just sad. A person who's depressed may not always choose to cry. And if your dad is stoic, quiet, withdrawn, locking himself in the room, his amount of contact, verbal contact has gone down. His amount of involvement has gone down in the family. And there was a man whom I met who suddenly said that I want to sign for organ donation. That was the only symptom. I want to sign for organ donation. Suddenly, when we screened him for depression, we found that the person was depressed. So it's important to understand, my dear friends, and all those who are viewing this entire episode, this conversation. A person who's crying may not always be depressed. A person who's depressed may not always choose to cry. And the American Heart Association has given a beautiful 7 tips, and the 7 tips are: please carefully listen to this. Get active, eat smart, lose weight, manage your blood pressure, control your sugar, control your cholesterol, and stop smoking. And these are 7 tips from the American Heart Association for good physical and mental health.
You're muted, Anirudh.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shetty. The next question is for Dr. Joshi. Can we expect the virus behind in the coming financial academic year, given the flattening? I think we've already answered that.
I think to a great extent, yes. I think we are
Yes.
looking forward to that.
No, one
Unless we
second. Sorry,
we
sorry,
are
Yep.
sorry.
unless
Go ahead, go ahead,
unless
go ahead, go
and
ahead.
we are this thing. So continuing with what Dr. Shetty said for that seven, remember
Hmm.
what is true in United States may not be true in India.
Yeah.
And I think in India, what has happened is we have unfortunately imbibed bad habits from the West, and we
Correct.
think that it's a status symbol. So we have embraced, fast food joints from the United States and Europe. We have embraced all, and I don't want to name them, the colas from the United States, the burgers from the United States. And we have forgotten our own rich heritage. And it's time for that, for us to really make a very, very mindset shift that whatever is coming from the West is not the best.
Hmm.
In fact, it's a dump for poor health. And I think it's important for us to recognize that we don't adapt that culture. Okay.
Correct.
For example, a pizza or a burger is not healthy at all. It's actually extremely unhealthy. And it's
Hmm.
actually going to be counterproductive because it's going to make you diabetic. It's going to grow atherosclerotic plaques in your coronaries. It is going to not allow you to be just relishing that little piece of pizza, but it's going to erode your body like white hands. And you will not even know that that has happened. And then we will blame it. And then we'll have to take westernized medicines to take care of it. Rather than that, if we move food into our Indian ancient system of
Hmm.
sattvic food, in which on festivities you can have rajasic food, and try to, for people who need taste, occasionally have on certain days of the week tamasic food, and actually go into the Vasudevam Kutumbam in a better way. It's actually a better quality of living with yoga, with dhyana, with appropriate food behavior. That is the way to conquer non communicable diseases. Just looking at our past and our heritage allows us to get a glimpse what is
Hmm.
needed for us, how Indians were prosperous once upon a time, and they were probably the most progressive nations on planet Earth. And it's time to come back because we have come through a full 360 degrees now. And I feel as we look at 2021, as we look at this century, I think we are a born again India. We are Atmanirbhar India. We are a self reliant, developed country now. And it's time for us to show the world that we can do it. We can
Exactly.
actually make things happen. But the only thing which pulls us down now
Hmm.
is diseases. So if we are free of physical diseases and if we
Hmm.
have a mindset freeing us from the mental cobwebs, if you follow Guru Anna's advice, I think we will actually march towards glory of India. We are looking at signals over going there, and we have to just make that happen.
Beautiful.
But no, no, I would like to ask you one question,
Yeah.
Shank. Most of the dietitians attached to the diabetologist also prescribe marriage between the two diets. Put some nuts on the pizza, put some vegetables on the pizza, and many advise diets which are not part of the culture of the patient. So many of them advise diets which is based again on Western philosophy. Eat soya, eat this, eat this. How do you address that diet part? Though whatever you said is very utopian, difficult to practice, but I think we should practice it. We should eat the food from our culture. We should think about the Vasudhaiva Kutum. But how does diet work in this entire process?
So first of all, I think if a dietitian is telling you to eat pizza, I think then she's not a dietitian. Okay, that's
No,
my
no, no,
first
no,
question.
no, 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 no.
No,
I'm not
let
saying
me
pizza.
answer
No,
this.
no, no,
I
no,
have
no.
understood what you're saying, but you said you're putting nuts on the
Correct,
pizza. Nobody can
correct.
advise you to put nuts on the pizza. That's not correct.
That's
Okay.
nuts.
Nuts are a marketing gimmick of the California Almond Association and the California, associations of walnuts and nuts. So these are evidence-based companies under the name of evidence-based, marketed from a particular geography, trying to influence minds.
Hmm.
Okay, and they
Hmm.
not necessarily may not be the healthiest.
Right.
So that's the first caveat, because you can have any food product, and if you
Hmm.
are not physically inactive and if you eat it in excess, it could be deleterious to health. That is the first thing. Second thing is US probably generated science, but
Hmm.
also generated myths with a sinister motive. They led a movement stating that saturated fats are bad by the sugar lobby, and they ensured that the carbohydrate percentage remained high only to have a zero full 360-degree U-turn now. So I'm not getting into that at all. We
Hmm.
actually, under the auspices of Professor Jeffrey Mechanic from Mount Sinai and Professor Osama Hamdi from Harvard Medical School, actually started a movement called trans culture nutrition. Food cooked in every Indian household is different. We are very right, Dr. Shetty. And the culture in which foods and customs have to be ingrained on dietary guidelines. So in 2011 and 12, we published this work and
Hmm.
started a trans-cultural food center of endocrinology with the American College of Clinical Endocrinology. We have published this work, and even we got an India piece, which
Hmm.
means that food cooked in Anirudh's household, in my household, or Dr. Shetty's household is different. Can
Hmm.
we adapt that food custom and devise a diet plan for that? So I think
Hmm.
most of the current dietitians who are RDs, so you should go whether they have a registered dietitian tag on it, because many of them may not have it. If they are
Hmm.
qualified dietitians, we are presuming that they are taking the principles of the local customs and culture, which is
Okay.
evidence based, and telling them to eat less. The three simple dietary prescriptions Guru Anna is: eat less.
Hmm.
Whatever is the food cooked by your grandmother or great grandmother was the best, but eat
Hmm.
less. Make one third less, less, less. Curb your carbs, increase your proteins, curb your fats. As simple from the macronutrients. And then ensure that the right micronutrients are in place.
Hmm.
Nuts can drive you nuts. And remember, don't get into the nut game at all, because the
Hmm.
nut games have a motive, have a conflict of interest, and have generated some science over there. I
Hmm.
would like the Indian nuts. Indians are protein deficient.
Hmm.
Simple fist of ground nuts
Hmm.
gives you all the protein you need. Simple saying or dana on the road can give you the proteins the Indians need. We really don't. We need cereals and pulses to be mixed. For every cereal we mix in India, we are in a cerealized world. Okay, all you need to do is mix some pulses, and as I said, it calms you down. There is curd rice in the south. It has tryptophan in it. It calms your mind down. It is very good sedative. You don't need to take sedative pills if you take a proper curd rice. So remember, a lot of science now on
Hmm.
Indian functional foods is being generated, Guru Anna, and we need to believe in ourselves. We
Hmm.
don't have to go by a Western bogey and a US Department of Agriculture. They are very good. They have very good science. So let me admit what are the good things from the US. US makes very good science around food. We also need now to generate science around our food. And
Hmm.
that is the change which is happening in Atmanirbhar Bharat. And I think that switch is very important. So I think our Singh Dana, if eaten in moderation by a malnourished child coming from a poor environment which doesn't get adequate source of protein, is as nutritious than any nut coming from California.
Excellent. And one question for you, Dr. Joshi, which has been asked multiple times, which is regarding the household chores, that there are maids now. Is it safe for cooking, especially, and other work as well? These are lingering fears that are not going away. Please clarify.
I think it's reasonably safe as long as appropriate COVID appropriate behavior is maintained, masking is maintained,
Hmm.
adequate hygiene is maintained. and adequate sanitization is maintained. So that's something which is there. And we know that a reasonable degree of that population has got herd immunity in cities like Mumbai. I
Right.
cannot talk outside cities of Mumbai. You have to be very careful, but do not be foolhardy because they are going to multiple spots. You need to take still those cautions and that care. But I think it is reasonably okay to have them on board as long as you know that the spaces they occupy are decontaminated, cleansed, and you take appropriate hygienic principles. One
Hmm.
mistake and you could have a challenge, particularly if you have a senior citizen at home, particularly if you have somebody who has a vulnerable condition like a comorbidity, you need to take extra caution.
Right. Thank you so much. Dr. Shetty, the last question I will just ask you, which is you had mentioned in your last session there is this mental health pandemic. What is this mental health pandemic that you're talking about? Please unmute yourself, sir.
All over the world, we see increase in mental health symptoms, and not only symptoms, but also increase in mental health illnesses. And the
Right.
most common illnesses we see is increased anxiety, which is really affecting the work performance of a lot of young adults. A lot of young adults do not want to go back to work. That also is not a reflection of the workplace, but it's also a reflection of the impact of the epidemic on them. A lot of friends among your family members will also say that they would be sleeping less, they are irritable, they're angry. So anxiety and depression is on the rise. At the same time, post-traumatic stress, which means a lot of memories about the event, imaginary, seen on TV, seen while being hospitalized, has also increased. A lot of people are facing existential dilemmas of what will happen in the future. Should we do something different? Is
Hmm.
there any point in living? The world probably might not continue the way it has. But in spite of all this, a large number of people are doing well. A large number of people have stories of resilience. But those people who do suffer from all the symptoms as a consequence of
Hmm.
the pandemic should not wait, and after the home remedies fail for a very short time, should take a mental health screening through a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And what is extremely important to do is get that arrested fast, because early treatment will make you functional, early treatment will make you happy, early treatment will really make you feel nice and feel good. But apart from all that, one clue for happiness is reading stories of joy, reading sunshine stories of joy. And there will be hundreds of Corona warriors, like one which I have put in my blog, and read those stories of joy and resilience to 100 of Corona warriors, one of them being from the same hospital which I practice, uh, Dr. Arpita Dwivedi, but she just represents hundreds of doctors who have done extremely well in the corona and saved their lives. Let's read those stories. This is also a recipe for being happy, being calm, being comfortable, and being resilient. With this, Happy New Year to each one of you for being with us across March. And on behalf of all of us, wish you a very happy new year. As Dr. Shashank said, let's not be astrologers, because even Anthony Fauci has changed his opinions continuously. Many guests on this channel have made predictions, but the virus is very devious, is predictably unpredictable. So let us not drop a mask like many politicians across the globe, including India. Let's wear those masks, let's be safe, and let's meet again next Sunday, 12 o'clock sharp. Thank you for being with us for so long,
Thank you
and
so much.
and choose to be mentally healthy and physically apt. Thank you.
Thank Thank you so much, all of the viewers. Rekha Shahani ma'am, Vinita Bhatia, Sangeeta Kohli, so many other questions. Urmila Mungi says, "Can you share a link of the paper, sir? We'll definitely share it with you in the comments." And Sujata Kamaji, Samir Nelugal says, "Happy New Year." Thank you so much and Happy New Year, Dr. Joshi. Your last comments and we'll close.
No, I think I'll echo with Guru Anna said that I think happy 2021. I always say that this is the Gregorian calendar. I don't like the Gregorian calendar. I would say that our new year will come after 3 months, by which time we will be in a corona-free environment, which will be free pharma, and that is the true new year. And that is the
Yes,
by that time I feel we'll be having a corona-free India at least. And I wish and pray that Vasudev Kutumba, which is a one world, will have no
yes,
COVID this year, and we will conquer COVID. Please be happy, please stay happy, and please be healthy. Jai Hind.
yes. Thank
Add
you.
color to your life.
Thank you so much. See you next week. Thank you.